Good day, folks. We're at the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We're in our second day of our conferences, and I have the fortunate to be here with two of the most advocates that I've ever known of in industrial hemp areas. On my right, we have Anndrea Hermann, and also on my left, we have Doug Fine. And their resume is probably an arm long, and I couldn't tell you everything that they're involved with, so I'm going to let them tell you a little about themselves, and then I'm going to ask them a couple questions. First, I'll start with Anndrea.
Well, thank you, Edgar, so much, and everything that's going on in Oregon. Definitely appreciate it. My name's Anndrea Hermann. I'm originally from Joplin, Missouri. I am the president of Hemp Technologies Global. I'm also the president of the Hemp Industry Association, our national nonprofit trade group in the United States, representing from the field really all the way to the plate for industrial hemp. In addition, I'm a professor at Oregon State University, and proud to say that Edgar was one of my first graduating students. Thank you.
Thank you, Anndrea. Doug Fine.
My name is Doug Fine, and although my hemp resume, 10 of my hemp resumes don't add up to either one of you guys' hemp resume, my overall resume is as a investigative journalist and author, an observer participant in general, and a solar-powered goat herder. Everything I do has a sustainability and an optimistic angle, which is rare in journalism. And so therefore, it's probably obvious that I ended up most recently, last few years, researching hemp. And I'm deeply immersed in it now, but I should say, Anndrea here is kind of a mentor to me. I couldn't have written Hempbound without her, and she also is a knowledge base. In every conversation with her, I learn more about hemp. Lastly, I'll say by way of introduction, right now I'm preaching this concept of tri-cropping, getting a facility in communities where they can use hemp for all of its uses, seed, fiber, and energy, and empower communities through value-added processing.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Oregon, we passed our industrial hemp bill back in 1998, the same time that Canada did their emotions. And what I wanted to ask Anndrea is that how do you see the U.S., particularly Oregon, in the next 2 years? Because you guys have been doing it for 16 years. In Oregon, we've only been talking about it. So I'd like to know how you foresee our hemp industry in the U.S. coming up here in the next couple of years.
Well, we're really looking to diversify the market. If we start looking at making hemp a mainstream product, we need to have a global cultivation. We need to have farmers in the United States cultivating industrial hemp so that we can supply the greater sum of the market, reduce those lead times from our processing facility, and also reduce the risk. Yes. What's going to need to happen, particularly in Oregon, is we're going to need to develop those regulations, and thankfully with the new legislation, it puts a demand in for the regulatory framework to actually be put in place so that we can start applying for those applications. Mm-hmm. What is going to be key when it comes to agriculture is variety trials. Because anywhere in the world, when we're talking about farmers, they want to know that the cultivar that they're going to grow is going to yield an economic return for them. So when we start talking about the bottom line with the producers, we're going to get engaged with the extension office, bring them in, work with local producers so that we're getting that agronomic information back to them. They can make that educated farming guess. Yes. And trial and error when it comes to cultivating industrial hemp so that we can build a really solid, legitimate industry, partnering with our partners and our colleagues around the world.
That sounds great. Doug, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I'm a big fan of Oregon, have a lot of good friends in Oregon, and was there covering the election. So for those who aren't aware of this, on Election Day, November 4th this year, 2014, Measure 91, a fantastic bit of legislative writing, passed overwhelmingly by 12 points in Oregon, and it legalizes and regulates cannabis for adult social use and home cultivation, as well as setting the stage for a well-regulated market, but also mandates that the Oregon Agriculture Department craft legislation surrounding cultivation. Now, it's a bit redundant because the Agriculture Department had already promised that it was going to have regulations in place for this spring. But this is just for folks to know in Oregon, you're now among the states, slightly less than half the U.S. states, that is in sync with recent changes this year in federal law, thanks to the Farm Bill, that allows that kind of cultivation for research purposes, as long as it's connected in some way with a university or an agriculture department. And the one other thing I wanted to add on that topic is on the federal level, the first thing that Congressman Earl Blumenauer of Oregon said when he hopped on stage at the Measure 91 victory celebration was, this is a mandate and it's going to empower us to push hemp through this session. So watch for that crucial S359 in the U.S. Congress to make it through this lame duck Congress and pass, which fully brings hemp out of the purview of the Controlled Substances Act and into that of the United States Department of Agriculture. That is victory for our economy, our farmers, and humanity.
That's for sure. A little note I'd like to add, in Oregon, not once, but twice, but 3 times we've passed industrial hemp. We did it in '98, and we also did it with the new Farm Bill 7606 for research and development. And then last week at our elections, we passed industrial hemp, and it was put into our recreational marijuana bill. So we kind of did a vice versa. We snuck a bill in theirs where the Republicans in the Congress sneaks their bills into other bills. So they didn't even read the bill, so they weren't even aware that it was in that. So I wanted to ask Anndrea, say we wanted to start growing hemp next spring. You were telling me that we have to have a state permit from our USDA, or what administration do we have to go through for that?
Well, it depends on who's going to be administering the regulations. It could be the state ag department, more than likely, but it really depends on who is going to be providing those licenses. Some states actually have a hemp office. It could be just one person, but they do have a hemp office that you are sending in the application to. They're the ones that are, and reading those and administering those. But yes, currently right now, as Doug was saying, with the Farm Bill, you do still have to have DEA's permission. As he was saying, you have to work with a university or Department of Agriculture. So how it will run down essentially is not only do you need to have your hemp license, but you also have to have your hemp import license from the state. And then what that allows you to do is to apply for the DEA import license. Now on the DEA import license, not only do you need to have your information or the information of the university or the Department of Agriculture, but you also need to have the information from the importer or the exporter that's going to be sending you the pedigree planting seed, what the variety is, what the weight is, what the THC analysis is, and then a few other things such as a phytosanitary, because we want to make sure that the planting seed that we're bringing into our agricultural framework does not contain any type of disease or fungus, in which we're introducing something that we do not want to have to deal with. So those are some important things. Once you have all of those things in line, then you provide those to whomever you're purchasing your planting seed from. They are then able to supply that documentation to their authoritative body, in which they will then be able to get their export permit. And then it goes really easy. You build a strong relationship with your Customs Border Patrol. You have everything in line. And I can say from my experience so far working with the DEA is that they've actually been very nice. They've been very helpful, and they are now mandated by this appropriations bill to not stop the rollout of the Farm Bill. So these are really important. They are actually on our side, but they have a regulation, and this regulation facilitates us to legally bring pedigreed planting seed into the country in any state that has a regulatory framework. So in Oregon right now, what we have to do is start moving forward with actually getting that document that we can say, my name is, I live here, here's my field, and now give me my license.
There you go.
Can I ask a question of Anndrea?
Sure, you may.
You got involved in hemp because a professor said you should tackle whatever makes you so angry. It has to be changed. It was so clearly, the answer was so clearly hemp for you that you left your native Missouri to become a hemp expert, and you've spent first couple of decades of your career in Canada, but you're a dual citizen and you're still from Missouri. Did you visualize this day sitting here giving an interview about planting hemp in the U.S. soil in the following growing season? Did you know you'd get here? How do you feel at this point?
It's very surreal. Sometimes I don't feel that it's real. I definitely feel like I live every day to help the hemp industry globally, and that if today's my last day, I've done what I've been put on this earth to do, and why this crop is really the first word in my final vocabulary. It defines who I am, it defines who I want to surround myself with, and it defines the work that I want to be able to do, and it defines the reason why I, like Doug, spend so much time away from our little hobby farms. And the reason why we're out there educating people and really trying to raise the tough questions. And that's part of the hard time that we have in our jobs, is asking those tough questions and being able to accept tough answers even when we might not want to hear them, but learning how we can work with those answers to build a legitimate industry.
That sounds fantastic. There we have it today, folks. We're here at the Canadian Hemp Alliance, and we're going to close for today, and we want to thank our guest today, Doug Fine. I appreciate it so much for you.
Great to be
with you.
Anndrea,
thank you so much for doing it for us.
This is the Hemp American Sign Language sign for hemp. Two H's with your arm crossed, kind of I love you. The more it's used, David Pillar invented it, right? David?
Yep.
Yeah. David Pillar. And the more we use it, the more it gets accepted in the community. So, Hemp for Humanity.
Hemp for Humanity.
Thank you so much. Thanks.